Okay, I'm going to make a quick video to kind of show what I do anytime I'm going to go on like a long road trip. Just like the kind of quick once over of the car, honestly. Break it up in a couple of different pieces, but anytime I go on a bike ride, a car travel trip, whatever you want to call it, of more than a couple of hours, I always do like a quick little check over the car just to make sure everything's kind of in tippy top. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the tire pressure. Now, tires look good, and they look like they're going to continue to be, you know, holding a lot of good air, but visually is not the best way to inspect them. I'm going to use a gauge. This is a little tire gauge I've had for 100 years, but it still works. Then we'll come around here in the driver's door. When you open the driver's door, there's a little sticker here. Every single car has it. And it tells you what the pressure of the tires are, or what they should be at, the cold tire pressure. So cold tire pressure is the car hasn't been driven in a while, and it hasn't heated up the rubber. So it doesn't have to be physically cold. So you'll notice here, the front tires get 32 psi, that's pounds per square inch. And that's what this little gauge measures in. And the rear ones get 35 psi. So it's very common actually for cars to have different amounts of air in one and different in the front ones and different in the back. So let's test some of these. Now I've got my own little compressor, and this makes it a lot easier. I don't have to get like a bike pump and pump it up. A little tire cover here. It's just like a bike valve. This little thing right here is called the valve. Allows air in when you push it in, or if it'll let air out if you push it out as well. So you push this thing on here. Remember, it's supposed to be 35, so it's 34. It's a little bit low, so I'll put a little bit of air in it. $35, perfect. Doesn't take long to get a pound of air in your tire. If it's really low, like 10 pounds or something, it'll take a minute or two, but these are pretty good. I'm going to do the rest of my tires, and we'll do another little check on some other things in a minute. Okay, so I just got all the tires checked. I'm going to go ahead and check a couple things under the hood. Newer cars, this is where the hood latch is, most of the time, most common place to find it. A lot of newer cars don't have a lot of fluids you can check, so I thought I would review that with you. A couple things this has that you can check. This is your coolant. So my coolant is a little bit low. I'm not sure if you can see. The minimum line is here and the max line is a little bit up there. So I'm going to go put a little bit of coolant in there. It's just a little bit low. Not terribly low. This is my windshield washer fluid. It doesn't have really a way to gauge it. You just kind of pour it in there until it comes up to the very top. I'll probably put some in there. It's been all the pollen, so it'll be something to check. You'll notice this said push. So this has, that's the brake fluid in there. And honestly, it's hard to see. I can't tell. I'll have to get a flashlight and look. It's kind of hard place to see it in there. This is where you add the engine oil, but this car doesn't have a dipstick, which is a way to change it or check it. It doesn't have a dipstick for transmission either, so it's all electronic. It'll tell you in the car. So you can go to a place in the car and check it, and I will do that tomorrow. But we'll get a flashlight, and then we'll get that, check out that brake fluid, and we'll get a little bit of coolant and add to it. Okay, so I went and got my windshield washer fluid. I always try to buy the what's called all season. Rain-X makes a really good brand, but it protects down to -25. I know it doesn't really get that cold in Georgia, but they make stuff that just goes to 0, and I've had it actually freeze up in the windshield washer lines before. So I always try to get this really cold stuff. So I got some brake fluid. It's dot 3 and dot 4. There's different types of brake fluid. This is the most common type. You'll need to make sure that's what your car requires, but that's what this car requires. And this is the pre-mixed antifreeze. So it's this pink stuff. You can see the little window right here. It's pink. There's all kinds of different antifreeze. Make sure you get the right antifreeze before you start putting it in your car, because you can mess up something for sure if you don't do that correctly. And we'll start by putting some of this windshield washer fluid in. So, like I said, the pollen's really been going around, so try to fill this up. No real measure as to when it's full, except for that you'll just see the liquid coming up at the very top. I'm assuming it probably needs some. I haven't put any in a while. Holds about a gallon or a gallon and a half. Oh, there it is. It's full, almost empty. So that's full. Ta-da! That should hold me for a while. So I got a little bit left over. I'll put it in the Jeep. Now, remember I told you can get a flashlight for this brake fluid. So went and got a flashlight. That's what I want to see. Minimum and maximum. I'm not sure if y'all can see that. So there's a max line. It says right here is the max. So I'm just going to jostle this a little bit. See where the fluid is. Looks like it's at the very top. Kind of hard to see. It's kind of a clearish liquid. So if you didn't see that, I'm sorry. It's kind of hard to see. Now, the coolant will be pressurized. I don't need the flashlight for this. So don't do this when it's hot. So what that means is if you start opening this when the car's hot, it could come shooting out, right? Because it's pressurized. You gotta be really careful. Make that noise and everything. There's the maximum minimum line. Similar to the brake fluid, but it's a little bit easier to see because it's pink. Brake fluid, unfortunately, is clear. Sorry. So it's about to the max now. Pour a little bit more of this. You can see how pink it is. They dye this different colors on purpose. There's green, there's purple, there's blue. They dye it different colors so you don't mistakenly grab one and just start pouring it in. Pink typically is German-made car. This is a German-made car. So, I think I had a BMW once and it had blue antifreeze. Volkswagen has pink. Alright, so I think we're in a good spot with the car. Hit the tires, check the fluids, right? This is a little bit low. This is why you do this. You don't want that to be low. That's also the second time I've had to put antifreeze in it, which makes me think there might be some kind of small leak or something somewhere. So it helps me to keep an eye on it. So that's it for this car. I'm probably going to do a quick rundown of the Jeep as well, because it's a little more traditional, old school. Alright, so I thought I'd show you on like an older vehicle as well. Jeep's a little, definitely more old school, and they kind of like it that way, so I like it that way too. They're fun to work on. So instead of having a little latch inside, right, Jeep has these little latches here on both sides. You lift up here in the middle, there'll be a little handle right under here. I'm sure you probably can't see that little handle right there, where it's a little lever and you push up on it. Now this has a little hold stick. It doesn't have pneumatic gas things. So the little stick here goes in this little hole right down here. Right wherever the stick kind of hangs, that's where you'll find the little hole down there. This hood can actually also go back on the windshield. No real need to do that right now. So here's my windshield washer fluid. This one has a really nice reservoir. It was leaking for a while, which is why I was marking it here, these little markings. So it needs a little bit, but not much. I've got just a little bit left in this container, so I'll just pour it in here just to get it done with. Okay. Now this is the brake fluid. Brake fluid on this one's a lot easier to see. May not be easy for you to see on the video, hard for me to tell. I'm trying to show you with the light, but I don't know if that's really helping any. Probably not. So, what you're going to look for is the fluid flowing. The fluid here is a little bit darker because this is an older vehicle. This is a 2000 Jeep, so it's a 20-year-old vehicle. Brake fluid's a little dirty, but it's at the full line. He says full add. So it's right there at the full. You don't want to add any more to it when it's there. Even though it's got a little bit more space, it's not necessary. This is the coolant reservoir. Antifreeze, engine coolant, whatever you want to call it. That is low. I'm going to need to put some in that. This is why you check, people. It's not horribly low, but it's low enough. Now I keep an old rag inside my hood. Not saying that you have to do that, but I like to do that because I think it makes it easy when I want to check something. Now this is power steering fluid. So what you're going to do is you're going to wipe off this, and when I wipe it off, it's got a couple of marks on it. It's got an H and a C, and then it's got a line at the very bottom that says add. So right now the engine's cold, so I'm going to look and see if it's at that mark. So you put it back in here, pull it out. It's actually a little bit above that, so it doesn't need any power steering. You very rarely put power steering or brake fluid in, for that matter. So this does have a dipstick. This is the oil dipstick right here. It says engine oil. And then this back here, this is the transmission dipstick. Transmission has to be cranked. The car has to be cranked, and it has to be idling in park. And the engine has to be warm, so that's not warm. So this is not the time to check that. So typically when I check transmissions, when I stop and get gas, before I turn the engine off, I'll check it real quick. That's the time to check it. But I will check the engine oil. I'll wipe it off first. So, engine oil has add, safe, and then it's got these two little holes. So I'm not sure how that's working out. I'm not sure how you can see that. But add has a little hole above it, and then safe has a little hole above it. So you want to be in the safe range. You don't want to go too full with this. If you have too much oil in your crankcase, it can start leaking into the combustion chamber and you'll start burning oil. So let's take a look here. So you're looking at the black oil here. It's directly in the safe section. It's a little bit underneath the very top, so it means it's not quite 100% full, but it's probably like 95% full. Perfectly fine. I'm changing the oil on this thing in probably a month anyway, so I'm not about to add any to it. Not going anywhere in this except for around Atlanta. This is my putting around vehicle. I'm just checking it because I might as well. Figure I was out here and checking out the other car for the trip. But I already checked the tire pressure, and tire pressure was slightly adjusted, but not bad. So I'm gonna get some engine coolant, top this off. It needs a little bit more in here. It's got a little full mark down here, which I'm sure is very hard for you to see. I get that, I'm sorry. But it says full right there. This needs some. It's at the add line. So this has had a little radiator leak for a while, so I'm aware of it. I just keep check on it. So that's about it for this one too. So Older cars are not much more difficult. They got a couple more things to check because, you know, they're still a little more mechanical. Newer cars are a lot more electronic, and, you know, computers will tell you when you're low on something. Makes them increasingly difficult to work on because it's hard to tell when something's low, right? So there's something to be said about these old engines that are kind of simple. All right, adios.